Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Shoot and Stiff Wrestling Podcast, another exciting episode. I'm your co-host. I'm one of your hosts, the international superstar, Tamilian Vinish. Oh, just Vinish for the podcast, not wrestling right now. So it's Vinish. I'm one of the co-hosts, and this is my co-host.
C-Dub from the woods with the goods. They got a can of Rays in my hand. The man with the plan. You want some of this Rays? Repsports.com. Use Young Rays 40. Woo!
Hell yeah! What do you know about Alaska?
Man, all I know is it's cold. It stays dark along at some point for like a month or 30 days or however it goes. And imagine like polar bears. It doesn't sound like much to do there. I mean, I don't know. It could be wrong.
It's actually 6 months night, like dark, and 6 months sunny,
Yeah.
light. That's what he told me. But this episode is definitely a completely an amazing experience for listeners and viewers for sure, because there's a lot of answers out there from Jerry, not only about Fairbanks, Anchorage, Alaska, the lifestyle, the drives. People think that every cities are close to each other, which is not. Fairbanks is 6 hours away from Anchorage, so he had to drive 6 hours for wrestling shows, and there are not a lot of wrestling shows out there. So he shares his experience on this episode 9, with Jerry Bishop from Fairbanks, Alaska. Watch and enjoy. So I heard a lot about you from my friends, Donald Akins, Wayne Lewis, Jerry Eggers. Those guys told me about you. That's the first time I ever heard about you. Like, there's this wrestler actually moved to Alaska, and he wrestles in Alaska. So before we go to Alaska, tell me, where and when did you start it? Your journey to the world of professional wrestling?
Man, that's a kind of an interesting story, I guess. And I'm at the point in my life, and I guess in wrestling, where I'm just gonna be like transparent. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I was really young, and I went to what I thought was a legitimate wrestling school, and this was probably like 2004. And these guys taught me like nothing. Like, I learned how to take a bump, how to hit the ropes, how to lock up. And he said everything else you're going to learn on your own.
So you're talking about in Ohio?
Yeah, in Southern Ohio.
Not surprised.
Yeah. Yeah. So for me, I count when I started legitimately as a professional, when I got trained for real. I count 2008, but I guess the first time that I got in a ring and wrestled in front of people was probably like 2004. But I mean, thank God there was no YouTube, because it was the worst stuff imaginable. But I kind of like would learn as I go, which is why oftentimes I encourage people now, if you get a chance to go to a seminar or go to drop in at this school or that school, learn wherever you can and learn from whomever you can. Some people will do seminars just to take your money, but some people you can learn something, from them. So I kind of learned as I went, and then I got trained for real in 2008 by a guy named Brian Logan, which he doesn't have the greatest reputation. He was in Ohio Valley Wrestling in a group with Batista and Tyson Tomko and Wolfie D, the Disciples of Sin, managed by Jim Cornette's wife.
Oh,
Yeah, and he taught me how to wrestle the old school way. And he said, you're not allowed to watch any wrestling that is newer than 1990s, you know? So I had to learn the old school way, which in a lot of ways I think kind of helped me because a lot of people don't have a lot of fundamentals now. You know what I mean?
yeah. So you did train in Ohio or in OVW? Did you ever get a chance to wrestle
No,
in OVW?
I never went to OVW. I've got quite a few friends that have gone there, and some good friends that are currently there. My friend Ronnie Roberts, one of my best friends actually. I think he's still a part of the roster. But I myself never went to OVW. I have wrestled quite a bit in Kentucky. Um, their athletic commission and the way that whole system is very strange.
Yeah, man. The sad part is like well, you have to get the license, you have to do the physical, and now these days I think
Mm-hmm.
it costs you like $80 or something. And the sad part is it's in the middle of nowhere. Number one, and wherever you are from,
Mm-hmm.
like you have to travel 45 hours to go there and do shows. I'm not shooting on OVW. I'm just shooting on
Mm-hmm.
Kentucky. So any promotions in Kentucky, you go there, you barely get 40, 30, maybe $20. And right now, looking at the gasoline prices, I don't know if you can really do anything, from Kentucky. That's for sure. So, yeah, tell me, brother.
Well, I did spend some time live. I lived in Kentucky for a while in 2012, and I did wrestle for multiple promotions there. And I I learned quite a bit when I was in Kentucky, and I learned about the hustle. I saw so many guys. It was like they were just. It wasn't even their own merchandise. It was like a traveling flea market salesman. A lot of these guys would just bring anything that remotely resembled wrestling, and you would see these guys on eBay trying to buy all these little knickknacks and things, and just trying to flip them to do whatever they could to make money. So it was an interesting, eye-opening experience, and yeah, the pay, like you said, wasn't that good back when and that was 2011 when I first got my Kentucky license. It was different because you had to have a licensed promoter had to sign off on your license. You had to like list who you were going to wrestle for, and
Yeah,
what
just
I
like in
experienced.
Virginia and Maryland.
Mhm. What I experienced was when I did that, the promoters like thought that they owned me because they were like, "I signed off on your license," and it was it was total carny stuff, man.
Internet is too late. Social media came out like too late. I mean, a lot of people put
Hmm.
out like probably to expose these promotions and businesses for sure.
Oh yeah,
Like you
I
said, it's the
agree.
same with in Virginia and in
Hmm.
Maryland too. Promoters have to request behalf of you for license.
You mentioned social media. Personally, I think that social media, there's a lot of good things and bad things. People say that the internet exposed the business, but I think that in a lot of ways, social media and the internet have been able to expose a lot of the carnies and the shady underworld of professional wrestling because you have a lot of people now that they're not around like they used to be. When I was younger, you would have these people that would tell you the most ridiculous story, but there was no way to verify it. They would tell
Yeah.
you, "Oh, I wrestled as the assassin, and I killed somebody in the ring," and all these things and these ridiculous stories. But you have some of these people now, but you're able to expose them because you can easily just type it up. Like,
Yeah.
what's this guy's name? No one's ever heard of him. Yeah, he's a fraud.
And at the same time, back then, like there's not a lot of promotions out there. Used to have videos. There were a lot of
Hmm.
promotions. They didn't do videos or photos, nothing. It was just word of mouth and kind of thing. So, who was your inspiration to get into this business?
Man, when I was a kid, um, and this was like the early '90s, showing my age here. I was really little, but Hulk Hogan, as much as I would hate to admit it, but I mean, culturally, he was huge back then.
Yeah,
And but my stepdad said, you're way too small. You'll never be big like Hulk Hogan or Ultimate Warrior. And then when I was like maybe 12 or 13, I saw Edge on TV, and I said, man, I could tell this guy probably used to be. He's kind of tall and lanky. He's in really good shape, but I thought, if I worked out, maybe I could look like that someday. But I was a big Shawn Michaels fan too, and Bret the Hitman Hart, and another one I liked a lot was Brad Armstrong.
yeah. Wow.
Yeah, well, and you wrestled in some of the areas that I was in, like the area with Vane Lewis and
Yeah.
Jerry and those guys, Eggers. Yeah, down there was like back in the '90s. It was like the perfect spot where you would get like um, WCW would come to do shows in Parkersburg and Charleston, and
Wow.
then WWF would do shows in like Columbus, Ohio. So you had like the best of both right there.
Nice.
Hmm.
Have you ever met Edge?
I have not met Edge. I have done. Um, I did some training sessions with Sin Bodhi out in Vegas.
Hmm.
Um, when during the pandemic was cool. I was able to get hooked up with some people there, and I went down and did a drop in at FSW, and I paid for some the one-on-one training with Sin because he was really cool and I liked his philosophy, and I know he's like best friends with Edge. I wondered if he would say anything because everywhere I go, everybody says you look like Edge or Big Cass.
I see the resembles right there.
Or some
I
people call me Medium Cass.
I got a chance to meet him when I was doing the WWE extra. So I wasn't sure, like how this guy gonna respond. But
Hmm.
prior to that, a year ago, I met Jay Kristen in
Hmm.
AW, one of those shows, Dynamite, whatever it was, on the back. So it was that match where I don't know if he was intentionally paid tribute to Benoit. He did an amazing headbutt, and I got a chance to talk to him in the catering. And again, I don't know how to approach him, but I just pretty much said, "Bro, that headbutt, you nailed it. Exactly looks like Benoit." And I apologize if I said anything wrong. And he was like, "No, no, no, man. We all miss him. It's just the sad part that we can't talk about him." A year later, I met Edge. So it was that Judgment Day thing that they were doing, and I think this is right after he cut his hair. And I was like, "Dude,
Mm.
why would you do that?" I was like, "Do what?" I was like, "You cut your hair, man. That was one of the coolest hairs." He just started laughing, and he did some segments, and I think he's around 40, end of 40 or 50.
Hmm.
And I told him, "Man, the conditioning you have is insane." And we got a chance to talk to like 5 to 10 minutes, and man, I tell you, he's one of the humble, nicest dudes I ever met. And some guys even asked me, like, some guys told me, like, "Hey man, Adam asked about you." I was like, "Oh really? Yeah, that's really cool." And I met his wife Beth. Yeah, man, I really hope you will get a chance to meet him. It's just definitely a worth of meeting guys like him. So much of knowledge, and
Hmm.
he's very humble and kind.
That would be awesome, man. I've always been a fan of his. I think he's probably what the stuff that he's involved in is, at least for me, is the most entertaining stuff. As a fan, I guess.
Also, the way he
But
came back.
yeah, to come back from the neck injury and everything. And you mentioned him being humble, and it's just something I found, I guess, in life too, is that no matter what level of success a person has, just the more genuine they are as a human being, that just really goes a long way. Whether you're trying to move up in the world or not. I mean, and I'm not saying like someone should kiss somebody's rear end, but I think in this business, when if you're just a genuine good person, it really goes a long way because there's way too many a-holes out there.
Oh, definitely, yeah. Talking about that, so 2008, I mean 2004, you had the match. In
Mm-hmm.
2008, you started your training. So moving
Mm-hmm.
forward, and what was your ultimate goal? Sure, WWE.
Um, in '08, yeah, I think it's probably what I wanted, what everybody wanted. I didn't really take it that seriously though, and back then there wasn't a whole lot of places to go. It's not like now where you can make a living on the independents and things, and it was just quite a bit different. Even in the last 6 years, just look at the way the landscape has changed. I never thought that I would live to see a WWE that doesn't have Vince McMahon in it. You know what I mean? It's crazy stuff that I never would have imagined, like wrestling on TBS and TNT again. I never would have imagined this. So,
Dude, talking about Vince McMahon, I tell you a crazy thing that happened a couple of months prior to him leaving. I got a chance to do WWE Raw on Greensboro Coliseum, and I met him, and I got a chance to just say hi, and he asked my name, where I'm from, and everything. And dude, when he left, I was like, man, I'm so fucking lucky to meet this guy. I have said this before in another podcast. It's something like you grew up watching Mickey Mouse and all these cartoon characters, and finally you got a chance to meet Walt Disney, the creator. It was that feeling. I was like, this is him. Like, it was a great feeling. So even 2008, that time period, you said the ultimate thing was there in the WWE. Even though TNA was there, some guys tried TNA. And again, so what was your goal? You never wanted wrestling as your main profession?
you know, I said that, and a lot of people I know will say, "Oh, I wanted to go to WWE, but they don't hit the gym and they don't work out and they don't hustle and grind." So I guess I was a realist about it. I was content with um, wrestling in like the tri-state area. Of course, I said, "Oh, I'd love to go there," but I didn't take it serious enough to really pursue that. So I mean, I respect the people that have and the people that do. I just think that some people get so caught up in wanting to make it that they just like lose track of what's important in life. You can't be taking bumps for the rest of your life. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah,
There's more to
definitely.
life than wrestling. So no, it's all good, man.
So did you ever try it? Like, did you try out like other guys like Tough Enough? Or I believe that time around 2010, 2011, TNA was doing Gut Check. Did you ever give a shot?
No, man, I really never put myself out there like that. Which is, probably it's not that I regret it, but I mean, maybe I should have done it. Maybe I should have taken it, a little bit more seriously. But at the time, I just didn't put myself out
Well, I mean, it's again, this is like not the end of the world. It's just not
there. Mm-hmm.
a lot of people's priorities. This is not the same thing too. I know a lot of people they didn't really want to do this full time, and right now there's so many wrestling schools out there. People pay insane amount of money. They go there, they're trained, they think that they're gonna have that contract. So tell me about a time where you got a chance to work with a professional who had experience, who been to different places, and also tell me about the time where you had to work with somebody who never had any experience, green as fuck, and tell me.
Let's see. Hmm. Uh, so the first one, so working with a professional who was
Like any names that you
names.
yeah.
Hmm. Let's see. Well, I didn't work a whole lot of names when I was down in the Midwest. Since I've been in Alaska, I've been fortunate enough to be on some cards and uh, work with some really talented guys who've been on TV and have had like TV experience. And they've all been really really cool, which is awesome because like I said, like when I started at like the bottom of the barrel. So and having to start in just, I think a lot of people nowadays will take, you know, they take things for granted or they don't appreciate what they have and they haven't had to start in like the shit indies where it's really bottom of the barrel, you know. So I take I'm really grateful for every opportunity that I do get, and I've been fortunate enough to work with some talented people, like up here in Alaska. A year or so ago, I did this big, like a six-way street fight. Um, Dan Moff was in there from ROH, and he's still just as much of a badass as he was back when he was in Ring of Honor back in the mid 2000s. Also, I get the chance to work with Matt Cross in a mixed tag match. He was really cool. I didn't realize like not that he's not that I'm saying that he's short or anything. It's just I didn't realize how tall I was for a long time until I'm walking around the locker room and I'm like, wow, I'm like 6'4", almost 6'5". I'm really tall
You
compared to a
should
lot of
go to
people that
AEW, man. Sometimes you'll be surprised.
wow. um
I'm 6'2". When I went there, and I was like, "Whoa, damn, I'm a big motherfucker here."
it's surprising, I guess, in the 2000s, like everybody was all juiced up, so it's just it's a lot different now than it was then, and which is, and like I said, it's better. So I think it's a lot more based on athletics and stuff like that. Um, Working, like you said, though, with somebody who was green as fuck. Um, Oof.
Any memories from Ohio, tri-state area?
Oh, there's a lot of those. A lot of um, having to work with people that were green, and because I really have done my best to just really get as fundamentally sound as I can, because I've noticed that you have a lot of people um, that are like half-ass trained or something, but they want to do some dangerous shit, and it's just kind of like, how do we dance around this? Um,
And they want to try in
like,
the match for the first time. They don't want to practice or anything like that. They want to try in the match, right?
yeah, they're like, oh, I do like a cradle pile driver, like off the middle rope. Oh yeah, I've never done it before. And then you see them like tie up with somebody, and their hand is like stretching out past the guy's collar, and their feet are all wrong. They hit the ropes awkward. They do a shoulder tackle with the right arm, and they're not working lucha. And I just see that, and I'm like, no thanks.
So
So,
tell me about Alaska. So how did that happen? Why, and when did that decision happen? And I'm sure this is like so many people, including me. And I apologize if the dates are wrong. I believe I read
mhm.
somewhere the United States bought Alaska from Russia back in 1862 for $3.8 million. And again, back then, Alaska was a major port of Russia. But again, Russia wanted Alaska back. Then they went back and forth, but it never happened. But it was always a fascinating place for me and so many wrestlers and so many normal people around the world. They know nothing about Alaska. Of course, now you have television shows, you have YouTube shows, you go to Google,
Mhm.
you Wikipedia, you see all the images, but someone like you from Midwest. I remember one time I had a conversation with Wayne. So Donald wanted to go to Alaska, but he was scared
Mhm.
of flying. So he wanted to drive to Alaska. And I said, man, that's going to cost you a lot of money and it's just going to be insane. But he still wanted to do it. I don't know if he ever did it. But again, anyway, so Alaska, this is your story, your time. Why Alaska? When did that happen?
Well, I moved up here in 2014, and um, at the time, I was gonna just, quit. I didn't think I would ever wrestle again, and I moved up here because my I was married once, and I have a child. He was small. He was really little then, and his mother went to Alaska because her dad used to be Air Force, and she lived up here. Um, when she was a kid, so she wanted to come back. So I came up to Alaska um, just to be in my kid's life, and um, I didn't think I would ever wrestle again. But the cool thing is, I remember telling my dad as I was packing my stuff because I had stayed at his house for a few weeks before I got on a plane and moved up here. And I remember I told him, I said, "Yeah, I don't think I'm ever going to wrestle again." Because he said you should bring your wrestling. I said, I'm never gonna wrestle again. I said, I don't even think there's wrestling in Alaska. And oh, by the way, I actually live in Fairbanks, which is about 6 hours from Anchorage. And at the time there was wrestling in Anchorage. I had just found out about it, but I didn't think I was gonna ever come, 6 hours to do wrestling in there. But my dad, when I went to bed, he must have like snuck into my bag and he like put my wrestling gear in there because like he knew someday he's gonna want to get in there again. So I moved up here to Alaska in 2014,
To Fairbanks, right?
and yeah, to Fairbanks. Yeah,
And that's where you live still now, or
I'm still here.
in
I
Fairbanks?
wrestle in Anchorage whenever they have shows.
Oh, then I really apologize earlier for saying that
Ah,
you're from Anchorage. But anyway,
no worries, man. No worries. What's funny is that a lot of people they that I've talked to because in the Midwest, or even anywhere else in the country, you think, oh well, it's all in the same state. I had people back in 2014 saying, well, you should go down and wrestle at the place in Anchorage, and I said, man, that's like a 6 hour drive. That's like you driving to Nashville to wrestle. That's like driving through a couple states. Um, but eventually, after like 3 years of living here, I did decide to get back into wrestling. It was a really crazy story. There was a group of women that were doing like a backyard wrestling here in Fairbanks, and I found out about it, and I was like, well, I don't know, maybe I could show them some stuff. And it wasn't like I wanted to train people and make profit or anything. I just thought if there's wrestling here, it would be good to do my part to make the in-ring product um, make sense. If I could teach them at least how to be fundamentally sound, not that I consider myself a person that is qualified to train anybody. Because I look at it, you know how it is. You've seen it down all over the country. You have legitimate wrestling schools, and you have people in places that nobody's ever heard of, and they teach people how to do things wrong, and they just take their money. And you know how it is. I know you've seen it. So I said to myself, I I've never, I'm not a legend. Obviously, I've never really been on TV. So I thought I would be doing the business a disservice if I were to like train people. But then I talked to some other people, and I thought, well, maybe if I just show them the basics and I could try to do my part to help make what they do look like professional wrestling. And they were actually drawing at these bar shows. They were drawing like 500-600 people paid. Yes, I mean they were drawing like crazy houses. The biggest one I ever saw them do was about 700 or 800, And at that point, they had got a real ring, and I was, like I was teaching them how to do chain wrestling and stuff like that before we even had an actual real ring, and I taught them the form on how to bump on crash pads, which was good for them because when they got the actual ring, they
It's
already
better,
had
yeah.
the muscle memory down. Yeah. Um, and once I started doing that, one of them said maybe you should get back in there. It's like okay, so I went down to there was a small promotion in right outside of Anchorage in a small town called Palmer, and I started doing shows down there for them, and that was like a 5 hour drive on a 2 lane highway. But I'm telling you, man, the road trips were gorgeous, and it really made me. I used to be one of those people that was like, I don't want to drive 2 hours for a show, but I moved up here, and it's like icy roads, like in a 2 lane highway, but it's gorgeous. There's mountains and everything. And the road trip, man, it was just, and the scenic drive.
So
Yeah,
what
you can't
about the
beat it.
weather? Like, is it winter more or summer very
Oh,
less?
yeah. It's 5 degrees here right now.
Wow.
Uh, yeah. Usually there's snow on the ground from like September or October up until May, sometimes even the beginning of June. Right this year, we didn't get snow until like the end of October, and it hasn't been bad yet. But there's snow all the time up here. But in the summertime, you'll go almost the whole day without it being dark.
And during the summertime, this is one of my buddy from Alaska. When he came down here to train, he told me the during the summertime, the highest it gets is like 60 or 50 or something.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't go beyond
I've
that.
seen it. I've seen it get to about 80,
Yeah.
but global warming and stuff. And I think in different parts of the state, you get like different temperatures. Because if you go about an hour north from where I'm at, because like Fairbanks is right smack in the center of Alaska. If you go about an hour north of where I am, that's where the Arctic Circle is, and that's where you have like the 6 months of darkness, and then you have like the 6 months of sunlight.
Unbelievable. How do you survive during that time period? During the
Um,
dark?
the
Even 10
dark
o'clock in the
is
morning is
rough.
dark?
Oh yeah, 10 o'clock in the morning. You'll have it to where like every day you'll in the wintertime you will get less and less sunlight. I never being from the Midwest, I never really paid attention to the solstice in the winter or the summer. I just thought, oh, in the wintertime it gets dark at like 7, in the summertime it gets dark at 9. Up here it's you might have like 45 the on the summer solstice you might have maybe um it won't even get dark. The sun will just start to set and then come right back up. And yeah, in the wintertime, the sun will start to come out and then just like go right back down. And that's usually at right around like 11 o'clock in the morning or something. And that's on the darkest day of the year. But like I said, an hour north of me is where you have the 6 months of each. But it's really crazy when you see little kids get off a school bus in the afternoon and it's pitch black.
Wow.
But at the same time, in the summer, you can leave the bar at 2 o'clock in the morning and the sun's down.
Man, that's insane just to
It's
hear that.
crazy. Yeah. So you have guys that you'll see leave the bar at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning and they have sunglasses on and they don't look like a douchebag because it's bright outside.
So, take me through this transition from moving to Ohio to Alaska. And of course, you didn't really wrestle right away. It took some time. So, what was the process like? Getting a place and cost of living. Now we're talking about entirely a different state where, let's say, I've seen some of the videos on YouTube where when you go to Walmart, small silly things that cost here for $9 and you have to pay $40 in there.
Um, so Fairbanks is not that bad. When you go to certain places that are up north, you have different villages and places in Alaska to where you can only take some places you can't even. There's not even roads to. You have to take a plane to, and there's a lot of like small planes and things.
Wow.
Uh, like I think there's a little town. They changed the name of it, but it used to be called Barrow, and it's right up at the very top of Alaska. And I want to say milk is like $20 or $30 a gallon there because everything has to be shipped.
Whew.
Um, in Fairbanks, there's two military bases here. So, and there's a college here, and there's a lot of jobs, a lot of construction, all sorts of things. So, the economy. I mean, the cost of living is more expensive. Um, but if you want to work, there's plenty of jobs for people to get. Um, Me, I guess when I moved up here, just myself, I just wanted to, be around my kid. I kind of a minimalist, you know what I mean? I'm like, well, as I have the belief that if people take things for granted, um, life can come back to bite you on the ass. You know what I mean? Like, because I hear so many stories of this person was a successful businessman, and then he got hurt, and then he couldn't work, and then his wife left him, and then he ended up homeless, things like that. So I think we're all we're all a few bad decisions away or tragedies away from being in Skid Row at any time. So I just like I said, I try to live light and you know take each day uh, with a smile. So,
Been there,
but
brother. Back in 2015, I was almost in Miami, Florida. Then a couple of days, I guess, like 4 or 5 days, and my buddies they helped me out. But yeah, I know exactly
rough,
what you
man.
mean.
Mm-hmm.
So going back to wrestling, so I believe from what I've heard, there's 907 Pro Wrestling. JT West is the
Mm-hmm.
promoter. Then Wrestle Pro Alaska. I forgot his name.
Kevin Matthews.
Kevin Matthews is the promoter.
Mm-hmm.
There's any other popular promotions out there than these two?
There were two others. Um, there was one called, like you said, there was that women's organization, which was pretty much backyard. But it was more, I won't even really say backyard. It was more like kind of parody. Like, I mean, what it wasn't what I would consider like straight laced professional wrestling. It was just more of a show. There was and they're kind of talking about restarting. And then there was another promotion called 49th State Wrestling. I wrestled there. That I believe is no longer in existence. Then there was another promotion, the one that I used to go to as well, called NSA Wrestling. And I don't hear too much from them these days. But the bigger ones are definitely 907 Pro Wrestling, and JT has a school, and he's produced quite a few students out of there. Some guys with some real potential to really go far. And then there's Wrestle Pro Alaska, and they only come up. Uh, it varies. Sometimes they come up more often than not. Like maybe they do spot shows
Like a Dragon Con,
3, 4,
MomoCon kind of thing, once a while.
yeah, like 3 or 4
Like a
times a year.
tour. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, in 2021, we had a big tour, which was like when you look at the distance that was traveled, there was 2 shows in Soldotna, Alaska, and then there was a show, and that was on a Friday and Saturday. There was a show in Fairbanks on a Wednesday, which it's about a 9-hour drive from Soldotna to Fairbanks. And there was a Wednesday show, and then there was another Friday, Saturday show back in Palmer, which is right outside of Anchorage, and that was another like 6-hour drive. So it was like a whole lot of miles on the road.
So Alaska is bigger than Texas.
Oh yeah, 2.5 times the size of Texas.
That's insane. The biggest state in the United States of America, Alaska. But,
oh yeah.
But when it comes to population, it's very less, right, compared to any other states.
Yeah. I don't have like the actual statistics, so don't quote me on this. But Anchorage, which is the biggest city, I believe has maybe like 200 and some thousand people, as opposed to like some of these other cities that have like triple, quadruple that.
It's very fascinating. So, what is the time difference? This is like right now. It's here like 9:43. So, what time is it there? 5 o'clock, 4 o'clock?
5:43.
5:43. 4 hours of difference.
I'm an hour behind Pacific time.
Wow. So again, going back to Alaska, wrestling in Alaska, did WWE or any other major promotions ever came there to do any shows?
Yes, actually. So Bret Hart, WWF used to come and do like live events here every 5 to 10 years or so.
Wow.
And I know Bret Hart talks about this in his book, but he said one of the best matches that he ever had with Kurt Hennig happened in 1989 at a live event in Anchorage. And right now, that match is kind of like the holy grail of wrestling, because before there was, I think, like for the tape collectors, there was the last Battle of Atlanta from like Georgia Championship Wrestling with Tommy Rich and Buzz Sawyer in the cage, and then there was the one with Bret Hart and Tom McGee that everybody thought Tom McGee was going to be the next superstar. There was that one, but since those have been discovered, now people are like, "Where's this Bret Hart Mr. Perfect match?" Because Bret Hart says it's the best match that him and Mr. Perfect ever had. And when Kevin brought Bret Hart up here for the WrestlePro show in 2019, Bret talked about that match in when he came out and did his promo and stuff. Yeah, they would do shows every 5, 6. I mean, sometimes more than that. I don't think WCW ever came up here. I was trying to do some research myself because this is, for the most part, like virgin territory, and I've really tried to do my homework when it comes to that. And in, I think, 1957, Lou Thez came up here and defended the NWA title in like one of those 2-hour long matches.
Wow.
Here in Fairbanks, and then he had another one in, I think, Anchorage. But there was a promoter who did a big super indie show in like 2002, and he brought up like Eddie Guerrero and some people.
Wow.
Super crazy and stuff. But there hasn't been a whole lot of consistent wrestling. It's really just.
I believe 907 Wrestling, they're the only guys actually running constantly in every month, right? Or no?
Yes. NSA used to, but I mean, they had such a small roster. 49th ran some 49th did spot shows, but they were like at bars and stuff, and it was more like a nightclub type thing. But 49th was legit, as opposed to like the Fairbanks ladies of wrestling that were more like the show, you know what I mean, and performance based, if you want to call it that. I'm trying not to say that, not say their backyard, because
Well, I mean, this is the thing. Like, if people, hey, if
Mhm.
people hates me for saying it, I've said worse things online. So, for females, there are some good talented wrestlers out there, but the easiest
Mhm.
way, just like in the Hollywood, you sleep around, you get that contract. I mean, it's not hidden thing. Like everybody knows. Like, there are some people on television that you see now these days on Wednesdays. They shouldn't be on in the ring. They shouldn't be on television, but they are in the ring because of so and so and so. So we know that how that goes. So and also the problem is it's hard to bring wrestlers from different states to Alaska,
Mhm.
Fairbanks, Anchorage, or any other major town. The cost it is very expensive. Like to get that flight, hotels, and everything. And I'm
Mhm.
I'm sure like earlier you talked about going to Vegas in Bodie's school and how
Mhm.
long you went there and what was your experience of going there from Alaska?
Oh well, I mean, I would never call myself one of their trainees exactly, but their school just kind of had um, they had a drop-in school, so like anybody could show up. Just you sign the waiver, you show up. They kind of see where you're at skill wise, and I that's what I tried to do in the last few years. Anytime I've gone out of Alaska, I've tried to go and just not just wrestle, but find a legitimate school nearby because even though I've been doing this a while, I I think you never stop learning, and
Yeah.
there's people that have started way after I did that I've been able to learn a lot from because somebody might do something differently, and it all depends on what works for you. And I just try to keep an open mind and learn as much as I can.
Have you ever tried to go to any other countries? Like I believe Japan is close to Alaska. Um, have you ever tried to go to Japan to wrestle there or no?
I haven't. I would love to, and like I'm at the point now where I'm starting to get in pretty decent shape. It might not look like it in this shirt, but I've really been putting a lot of work in to try to get myself in as good a shape as I can and get some decent custom gear and really work on making modifications and things to my gimmick. And uh, I really think it would be fun to travel out of the country. And yeah, I would love to go to. I'd love to go to Japan. I'd love to go to Finland. Um, Mexico would be different. I mean, I'm not very agile, but I think
Great place.
there's a lot of really good like technical wrestling in
Yes.
Japan as well.
I was surprised when I went to Mexico. So I got a chance to train under Chacho Jr. and Ultimo Guerrero. So those guys
Oh,
are
nice.
kind of like. So I'm going there expecting God. I'll be doing a lot of fucking spots, a lot of flips, a
Mm-hmm.
lot of shit. I don't know if I come back live, but their training, man, it's entirely different. They do a lot of techniques, a lot of ground chain works. It's not like what do you see on television. It's just, of course, there's a lot of people they do that. Jackie Chan, Bruce Lee, action packed acrobatic
Mm-hmm.
moves, but Mexico, they wrestle different. Like they work on the body parts. They do a lot of ground wrestling, and I was really surprised. And important thing about Mexico is wrestling is kind of like a religion. It's a part of their culture.
Mm-hmm.
If you go around and tell people you're a wrestler, bro, I'm telling you, they'll treat you like a king. And every corner, you'll see lucha libre masks for sale. It's insane. The amount of respect that wrestlers get there, it's amazing. And if you're a pro wrestler, once in a lifetime, it's once in a life, you should go there and experience that hospitality, that training, and everything.
That would be awesome.
Japan is pretty much the same way, but the only problem is the
Mm-hmm.
language. You have to learn Japanese, or just walk around with Google Translator without saying anything. And their style is very shoot style.
Mm-hmm.
It's shoot style. When I say shoot style, they won't shoot you for real. They're not gonna bitch slap you or they're gonna give you a hard
Mm-hmm.
elbow. No, the way the style is, it kind of looked like you're having a real fight in the ring. and it's definitely worth it. That's where I got a chance to meet Rudy Debris, and I got a chance to work with him. So tell me about now. You're active on 907 Wrestling, correct?
Yes,
Where they run in Fairbanks or Anchorage?
they run in Anchorage.
So you drive 6 hours.
I fly.
so,
I,
so-
I used to make the drive, but a couple years ago, I was going down to do a 49th state wrestling show, and I ended up in a ditch at about 8 o'clock in the morning, and it was like icy on the roads, and there was no cell service. So after being on the side of the road for like 45 minutes, fortunately, somebody was able to help get us like unstuck and get us back on the highway. And we had to go all the way, drive down, and pick up some people at the airport in Anchorage, which is it's from Fairbanks to Anchorage is a 6 hour drive. So we were driving down, stuck in there on the side of the highway in the mountains, made it back on the road, going super slow, but we had to make sure we made good time because we had to pick the people up that we were going to wrestle at the airport. And after that, I was like, man, in the wintertime, I am not driving down here again. So I'm like, I have put so many miles on the roads, like, and I say this, and this is a shoot, no disrespect to anybody else, but I have put more miles on the Alaskan highways for professional wrestling than anybody else. Like nobody else in Alaska, past or present, has put the miles on the road that I have. Because I mean, it's been like, I mean, thousands and thousands just to make shots, here and there.
that's
Like,
a love and passion for the business, bro. And back in 2018, I wanted to meet Brett so bad, and I've been trying my best to meet him. And I was
mm-hmm.
following his website and everything. So I finally decided, you know what, fuck it, I'm just gonna drive to Calgary. And I drove 35 hours, I think, 35 or 36 hours from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania to Calgary, Alberta, Canada. Went there, met him. I told him I drove from Pittsburgh, and he said, "Just take care of your health. Just be careful on the road." And it was summertime. I didn't really had any bad experience or anything like that. But so talking about that, you're from Midwest, and you had experience with snow, thunder, snowstorm, and everything. How bad it is in
Mm-hmm.
Alaska? And you were talking about tires. And do you guys actually change the tires, put chains and stuff, or?
Um, I know some people do, but I've never really seen it personally. Um, a lot of people will get studded tires. I know down in the Midwest, uh, people don't care so much about studded tires, but up here, if you have studded tires on your vehicle uh, after April 15th, like the police will fine you they will charge you like $3 per stud that's on your tire or something like that. It's a crazy price, and like people will just bum rush the tire shops in the wintertime to get they have summer tires and winter tires. Sometimes people will get, if not studded tires, they'll get these. They're like, it's like, it has like a softer tread. It's supposed to grip in the snow and ice better. And we have a lot of people that will move up here that are from the military, and they might be from like California or Arizona or something like that, and they've never seen snow before, and they get here, and these little army wives are like crying because I've never seen snow and I have to drive sliding all over the road.
Talking about that, bro, just want to share one quick experience. Me and my buddy George, is a referee.
Mm-hmm.
So we were driving from Pittsburgh to Chillicothe, Ohio for IWA show, used to own by Caleb Copper. And
Bull Miller used to own that before he
Bull
died.
Miller, yeah. Bull Miller used to own. This is right after
I worked at the IWA years ago too, man. I love the wrestling business. It's so small.
Well, I think Lennox Norris, he used to train and wrestle there too. Under Bull
his
Miller.
wrestling name back in the day was Al B. Dam, which I thought was the best name ever. That was Lennox. That was Lennox's old wrestling name before he became Lennox. back at the
Nice.
IWA, like way back in the day. Yeah.
Something new. So
Mhm.
me and George, like at that time, there's a lot of warnings from radios and television. There's a thunder snowstorm. I never experienced it, so we didn't really fuck it. We didn't care. We drove there. We
Mhm.
did the show, and after the show, we were like, okay, let's drive back. And bro, I tell you this: when you talk about hail and thunder snowstorm, it's insane. And I wasn't driving. George was driving. And now my hands are shaking. And I was like, George, be careful, slow down. It's like, dude, I'm driving on 10 miles per hour. How much slower you can? We can't see anything. I'm glad he was driving. And it's that instinct. So I asked him, please just find a motel, whatever. And in Chillicothe, in the middle of nowhere, there was an Indian motel. We went there. We took the room. Next day, we had to take care of the car. There's a lot of ice and snows and everywhere. We had to take care of it. We went back on the road, bro. I tell you, on the highway, even though there's like 2 or 3 trucks pouring the salts back and forth, but still,
Mhm.
you see left and right, bunch of cars, bunch of SUVs, Jeeps, you name it, everything on the ditch. And I was like, I'm glad we didn't do that. We didn't try driving. Normally it takes like 3 hours, 30 some minutes to
Mhm.
go to Pittsburgh, but that day took like 6 hours to get there. So
Oh, I believe it.
I can imagine what you guys are going through in
Mhm.
Alaska. So tell me about your future plans in the world of wrestling. Any plans to start any promotion?
Um, I there's talks of some stuff happening in Fairbanks, but um, I'm not the I'm not the guy. But there is talks of some stuff happening. Logistics haven't been figured yet, but there's talks of something. We'll see what happens. As far as stuff with me in the ring goes, uh, I can say that in the last year, I thought I was going to leave wrestling, but I've had a bunch of dramatic life changes, and things have actually been doing well for me and really, really well. Like things have kind of come together with the character and the gimmick, and I really want to get out of Alaska more so in the coming year. And I've got my passport, and I'm ready to start trying to go take some bookings out of the country because I just want to travel and just experience like different cultures and different foods and do sightseeing and like work in a place like Japan or over in Europe or Mexico, because I think one of the things for me that's helped, like we talked about the old school stuff and learning these different styles and learning from different people in various seminars and things that I've just picked up. I know you've seen this a lot. You have a lot of people that can't deviate from what they put together in the back. You know what I mean? Like you have these people that it's this. I'm gonna taunt, turn this way and taunt here, and then taunt here, and then in 3 seconds you're gonna hit me with this. Um, I think a lot of people don't know how to be organic and improv out there, and that was one of the things that I really enjoyed. The I wrestled him in a mixed tag once, but I got the chance to get in there with a guy we're both familiar with named Mike Taylor, and um, Mike, he's old school, and Mike is a seasoned pro. And when we went in there, Mike he had laid out what we wanted to do, what he wanted to do. Of course, I'm gonna follow the instructions of a veteran beforehand. But then Mike decided to kind of feel it out, call an audible, and I think some people in my situation, well, a lot of people that I've wrestled would freak out like this isn't what was supposed to happen. You just go with it. You know what I mean? And Mike and I had some good chemistry, and I like to be able to improvise off them. You know what I mean? And I think when you're in a situation where you're wrestling somebody that can't speak your language or you don't speak their language, and you have to kind of go off of body language and kind of how things feel, being able to improvise definitely a talent. Because I know you've seen this where guys like they have to call everything in the back. You know what I mean? Everything.
They don't understand, and they want to lay their shit in. Like, they want to put everything, every single thing in details. Like, dude, I'm not gonna call my fucking heat. I'll call it in the ring.
Exactly.
And talking about Micah, and Micah said this, like, hey man, so I'm gonna change your opponent so that you guys don't talk in the back. I was like, I don't care. I'm just a fucking heel. I just go and talk. From the beginning of a lockup, I'm gonna talk. I don't care. I've done it in the past. Like, it's a simple, small thing, and I'm not gonna do any 450 to a Canadian destroyer to an elbow, whatever. That's one thing that I noticed now these days. Everybody do this handspring back elbow to a cutter. They come up with the different names. Jay Lethal does it. I think lethal injection. That's what he calls it. Cody Rhodes does it something. I don't know what he calls it. Everything is just a cutter. The jury started back in the day with the handspring back elbow. Everything pretty much. So talking about Michael Taylor,
super kick is the new arm drag.
Yeah, right. And talking about Michael Taylor, he's a veteran, like from OVW to Deep South. So Miss told me this. I was in the catering, and I asked him, like, hey man, how's it going? So he asked me where I'm from, and I said, like, do you know Micah? Like, and I was like, yeah, man, Mike, he's fucking awesome. He helped me so much. I owe him so much, and he still to this day, when I tell him that, he was like, I don't know what I do, dude. Yeah, I was just there, but Miss always talk about Micah. It's just again, sad. Like, some people with so much of talent and knowledge, they're not really getting into that right spot because of the politics, backstabbing, and all fucking ass kissing and shit. But again, that's the nature of this business. We've been doing this almost an hour. I'm gonna let you go, but before I let you go, just have a few more questions, and we'll wind up this. Do you watch WWE and AEW on television now these days? You know what's happening in there?
To be honest,
disrespect to NWA or TNA. We'll come to that.
To be honest, like, I just scroll through YouTube or Instagram, and if I see something that catches my eye, I'll check it out. I'll try to find it on YouTube or something. I haven't had cable TV in years, so I really don't follow it too much. But, like, I used to have this belief of, oh, I'm not gonna follow what's going on. I'm not a Mizart, you know what I mean? But now I look at it like, the fans that are gonna pay to come to your indie shows, that's what they're watching. So it's good to have, like, your finger on the pulse of what's going on, so what your audience that's gonna come and watch you is exposed to. So I try to keep, I'll kind of, keep an eye on what's going on with AEW and WWE, but I can't really say, I couldn't tell you the last time I sat down and, like, watched a full program. Like I said, I don't care. I'll have cable. So
same here. One day, Rip Rogers told me. So he said he haven't watched wrestling in 20 years. So I asked him why. So he said, "Okay, take a pen and paper, go ahead and watch any of these shows you wanted, write it down the repeated spots, and tell me how many repeated spots there." And I was like, "All right." I ended up watching AEW Dynamite, Suicide Dive, and then a couple of Hurricane Ranas, and all the spots, like repeated spots. You sit on the first on the card and the last on the card, and I was like 6 or 7 times the repeated spots. I was like, yeah, that's why I don't watch it. And I was like, I get it, dude. But and again, like, sometimes when I come up with some new move, when I put that together in the ring, then someone will tell me, like, oh, this is what Pete Dunne does in NXT. I was like, I need to watch this shit again now. So again, so in Fairbanks, there's no promotions out there, correct?
No, not currently.
So, but at the same time, you might gonna open it, maybe no. It's still in process. You don't know.
There's talks of something happening involving professional wrestling in Fairbanks, but, like, it's just in the talking phase and nothing nothing going on just yet. I know that there was a WWE show here about 5 years ago, 6 years ago maybe, and then Wrestle Pro Alaska. We did a bar show here a couple years ago, but nothing's happened. But I don't know, like there might be some stuff involving professional wrestling in Fairbanks. I really can't comment on it
Yeah.
yet because it's just in the idea space, but it would be really cool if it does happen. But yeah, I go to Anchorage for and Palmer for Wrestle Pro Alaska and 907 these days.
I know I early asked about the WWE tryout. I know we have another competition in the town, All Elite Wrestling. Have you ever thought about giving a shot? I mean, especially I see one or two talents from Alaska on AEW, I believe. So do you ever thought about going there, or no? It's still you don't really want to. That's not your main preferences or priorities.
You know, years ago I would have said nah, but at this point now, like I would give it a shot. I mean, if because I look at it like people always talk about I want to make it, and it's like, well, what does making it mean to you? For me, making it is just enjoying life, enjoying my time in professional wrestling, and being a good human being to the people that I'm fortunate enough to share the locker room with, and to go as far as I can and have enjoyable experiences. And if that means that I get to try my hand at seeing if I could get a spot on Elevation or you know like a dark match or something with WWE, then yeah, sure. I mean, I would totally, at this point, I would consider putting myself out there. I know I'm not a spring chicken anymore, but why not? I mean, the most you're going to hear, the worst is that you're going to hear no.
That's yeah, but at the same time, you have plenty of options. NWA is there, Impact Wrestling is
Mm-hmm.
there. You can give a shot too. So you have social media. How active you are on social media, and also do you post any videos? And you're living a colorful desktop wallpaper place called Alaska Fairbanks. So you take
Mm-hmm.
videos or anything like that on social media? Do you
Oh yeah.
where are the
Fortunately.
fans, where are the listeners, and of course this is a video platform, and plus this is an audio platform
Mm-hmm.
too. This audio version will be available on Podcast One, Google Play Music, iHeartRadio, Amazon Prime Music, and all these
Mm-hmm.
platforms. So to the listeners and viewers, where they can find you and social media on social media.
I'm on Instagram. Just type in the Giver Jerry Bishop, and I'm on Facebook, Jerry Bishop as well. I am not too active on Twitter. I'm just kind of like
Stay
just
away from
now
that
kind
one.
of trying to try to understand how to use it. And like to be honest, I just recently changed my moniker. I don't even know what my handle on Twitter is. I don't want to give like the wrong name.
Yeah,
So, and I'm not really on Twitter that much.
yeah, so on Instagram and Facebook, you can go to Jerry Bishop, and on Instagram, Giver, you said?
Yeah, the Giver
The
Jerry
Giver,
Bishop.
Jerry Bishop.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much for doing this, man. And anything you like to add, and you want to? Oh, this one thing. Now you've been doing this for so long, from 2004. I'll say 2004, because
Mm-hmm.
the moment you step in the ring, it doesn't matter if it's a backyard. The moment the time you take your first bump,
Mm-hmm.
that's when your training starts. That's what Johnny Rods told me. So you've
Oh
been
wow, okay.
so it doesn't matter. And again, Mick Foley, he never went to a wrestling school.
Mm-hmm.
He learned in the worst backyard way ever possible. But later he became a legend. It doesn't matter if it's a
Mm-hmm.
hardcore legend. He did wrestle too. So my question is, like, what the advice that you can give to the young guys and girls wanted to make a profit, make a living out of professional wrestling now these days?
The best advice that I would give is first of all, be like a good human being, because if you're going to be a piece of shit to people, like, it's going to get around. And, you know, the business is so much smaller. Like, it's so much more close knit. You know what I mean? I would say definitely that. Also, as far as making a living goes, you got to put yourself out there. Don't be afraid to try new things, but also, like, I think it's people now a lot of times are more concerned with like getting over with the people in the locker room as opposed to getting over with the people that are paying to come watch them. And I think just whatever everybody else is doing, do the opposite to stand out. Because I think this is just my personal opinion, and I know some might say, well, he's making an excuse to be lazy. But I think everything that is athletically, humanly possible to do in a ring has been done by, whether it was Matt Cross 20 years ago or Ricochet now or Will Ospreay. Like, everything, I mean, I don't know how much more advanced like human beings can be when it comes to athleticism in professional wrestling. But because these guys, I could try to do what they would do, but I would look like I'm like seizure and it would look terrible. So I just would say try to connect with your fan base and try to make them feel something, because that's what I try to do. And I'm not the most athletically gifted person, but if people are chanting my name or they're telling me that I fucking suck, then I'm doing my job.
Absolutely. You know who else actually said the same thing? Fit Finley. Last year when I got a chance to go to the PC and I was doing a tryout, so before our match, Finley gave us a speech. He said, "You are not going to do anything that I haven't seen in this business. So try your best and tell a story." So thank you so much, my brother. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you,
and
brother.
I really appreciate it for your time and input. And man, I love to talk to you more, especially about Alaska. Maybe another episode, another time. But this episode will be available on YouTube in coming days. But the audio version will be available on Podcast One, Google Play Music, Google Music, iHeartRadio, Spotify, and Anchor. So one more time, thank you so much, my brother. I appreciate you doing this.
All right. Thank you, Vanish.